Today's story is about a robot which a couple bought to make their tasks easier and fulfill every need. But as he makes his place in their life, emotions and human feelings develop, and he falls in love with the wife. But the twist in the story comes when he discovers his reality, that he is not an ordinary robot, but something else. So, hello, friends. My name is Ishita. And at the beginning of the story, we see a couple named James and Sophie who are moving belongings into their apartment. James's financial situation is not particularly good, so they live in an apartment and do all the household chores together. James is the only son of his father, and his dad is a big businessman in this city. But for some reason, he lives with Sophie instead of his dad, and both are very happy in this normal life, and they love each other very much. But one day, James receives news that his dad has passed away. However, before dying, he transferred all his property to his son, i.e., James's name. And from now on, James will have to manage all of his dad's business. Therefore, they leave the apartment and shift to a new house, i.e., James's dad's house. But suddenly coming into such a big house and new life, Sophie doesn't like anything because she was used to living a normal life and preferred doing all the household work herself. Therefore, on the very first day, she asks all the servants working in the house to leave. Then, when James returns home at night and finds out about this, he explains to Sophie that she shouldn't have done that. He says that this is quite a big house, and managing all its work alone will be difficult, so we need servants. But Sophie doesn't agree and says that before, we both used to do all the household work together, and we can still do it now. After this, both talk about this for a while and then become close to each other. After this, we see that their life starts going in such a way that James becomes very busy in his dad's business. And because of this, he can't give time to Sophie. And Sophie also spends most of her time alone in the house and can't manage all the household work alone. Now, when James discusses this problem with a friend, his friend says that he has a solution for it. Actually, my dad used to work in a robotics company whose owner, Julian, makes robots that look exactly like humans. And those robots can do everything. I think you should go there and buy a robot. This might solve your problem. The next day, James takes Sophie to that company, where Sophie is amazed to see the robots because they look exactly like humans. After this, they both start talking privately, wondering if in the future these robots might become a danger to them. But then the company owner assures them that these robots will pose no danger to you in the present or future. That is my guarantee. These are AI robots, in whose innovation my dad spent his entire life, and I have also spent half my life completing them. They will do whatever task is told to them. Then, to convince James, Julian gives a command to a robot named Henry to lick James's shoe, and Henry does exactly that. Seeing this, James and Sophie are fully convinced, after which they bring Henry home. Now, after coming home, Henry starts doing all the household work very well, which helps Sophie and James a lot. He alone easily does all the work that even several servants together couldn't do before. And whenever James talks to him, he responds just like a human would. Therefore, James starts spending his free time with him and talks about many things because Henry understands him well, and James also starts liking him. However, Sophie initially feels a bit uncomfortable with him. She feels that a robot that looks like humans and does all the household work alone, so she wasn't able to accept him. But slowly, seeing his way of working and his gentle way of talking, she becomes quite impressed by him. Therefore, whenever James goes to the office, Sophie starts spending her remaining time with Henry. And Henry also takes very good care of her needs because his programming is such that his every action should keep his owners happy. Now, James and Sophie's life, which wasn't going well before, becomes fine with Henry's arrival, and their days start passing well in this manner. Then one morning, when Henry brings breakfast for Sophie and James, Sophie asks Henry about love and human feelings. He explains all this very well to her. Hearing this, Sophie becomes very impressed with him and starts understanding Henry, not as a robot, but as a person in her heart. But when James sees Sophie asking such questions to Henry, he explains to her that you shouldn't talk to him like he is a human because the way we treat him, he will react in the same way. If you make the mistake of considering him human, he will also start considering himself human, which could cause us problems in the future. But Sophie doesn't agree with him. Then at night, when Sophie and James are sleeping, Suddenly, Sophie starts hearing some noises from Henry's room. So she goes to check and sees that Henry has come out of his room and is sleeping in the garden. After that, when Sophie goes near him and looks, she notices that Henry is reacting in his sleep as if he is dreaming. Meanwhile, he wakes up and seeing Sophie asks, "Where am I?" Sophie says, "How did you get outside? And were you dreaming?" Then he replies, "Yes." Hearing this, Sophie is shocked that how is it possible for a robot to dream? After this, she takes him inside the house. The next day, Julian is called to check Henry. After checking, he says that perhaps there was some technical error inside him, which is normal to occur in any robot. Then Sophie says, "Last night I saw him reacting in his sleep as if he was dreaming. How is this possible?" On this, Julian says that Henry has been with you both for quite some time, and maybe you have treated him as if he were a human. I said before that these AI robots are very advanced. They will try to become the way they are treated. Now, because of your behavior, human feelings have developed inside him and he might be dreaming about you. Hearing this, James gets angry with Sophie and says that because of you, all this happened because you are the one treating him like a human. And because of this, there is a bit of displeasure between them. In the next scene, when James comes out of the bathroom, Henry also arrives there. James says, "Shave me." So Henry takes his razor and starts shaving him. Seeing this, James asks him, "How did you know that this is my razor?" Even though Sophie's trimmer was also kept near my razor? On this, Henry says, "My programming is such that I observe things quickly, and this is part of my programming." After this, James explains to Henry, saying, "You should understand this well. You were made like a program to help humans, but you are not human, and you have to do whatever you're told without feelings." Now at night, Sophie comes to the room and doesn't talk much with James and pretends to be tired and goes to sleep. Then we see Sophie and Henry talking to each other, where Henry says, "I have started thinking about emotions and love, and in those thoughts, I only see you." After this, Sophie asks Henry to give her a massage, and Henry starts doing so. But slowly, Henry starts kissing her, and Sophie also starts getting carried away, and then both start becoming intimate. But then Sophie's sleep breaks, and she sees that it was all a dream. James asks, "Were you dreaming?" Then she says, "Yes, I was dreaming." But without telling James all this, she says, "I don't remember what the dream was." Then, sometime later, when James is about to go to the office, he sees Henry and Sophie near the pool, talking and laughing. Seeing this, he becomes jealous, after which he goes to Julian and says that because of Henry, my wife is becoming distant from me, and now emotions are starting to come in Henry. On this, Julian says that this cannot happen because Henry is a robot, and how can emotions come in a robot? He will do as he is instructed. If the instructor has any desire, he will try to fulfill that too, and that's how he is designed. After this, James comes home and gets angry with Henry and says that from today, you are forbidden from having human feelings. After this, Henry tells Sophie that James has forbidden him from talking to her more. Hearing this, Sophie goes and gets angry with James, and because of this, they have a fight, which causes Sophie to leave the house. In the next scene, we see James and Henry playing a game together. During that, Henry tries to make James understand that before, you and Sophie used to spend a lot of time with each other, but when you couldn't give Sophie time because of business, in the meantime, I was brought to this house, and then slowly, Sophie started treating me not as a robot, but as a human. And this very thing became a problem between you two. Actually, it's just a misunderstanding and nothing else, but James doesn't understand this point properly. In the next scene, when James is in the bathroom, he asks Henry to shave him. But during this, to relax himself, James gives Henry some such command that Henry also fulfills. But the next morning, he realizes his mistake. Therefore, after going to the office, he calls Sophie and asks her to come back home. After this, we see that Sophie has returned home, and when Henry is massaging Sophie, he starts kissing her, which also starts feeling good to Sophie. But when Henry says that he has started loving her, Sophie is shocked and immediately asks him to leave from there. After this, when James comes home, Sophie tells him that Henry kissed me and said that he loves me. Hearing this, James angrily goes to Henry and asks him why he did that. Henry says that I did so after understanding the situation. This makes James even angrier, and he slaps him and then turns off his system. After this, he calls Julian and tells him to take his robot away from here. But the next morning, Henry comes and tells Sophie that he doesn't want to leave from here and apologizing. Says that perhaps he made a mistake in understanding the situation, but he wants to stay here. And he tells Sophie to talk to James, and he also tells her what kind of command James had given him when Sophie wasn't home. After this, Sophie goes to the office and talks to James about this. And after talking about it for a long time, they realize their mistake that both had become attracted to Henry, and their doing so was not right. Now, rectifying their mistake, they decide to send Henry back and live a normal life as before. But when they come home, they see that Henry is not there. While searching for him, they see him standing outside the house. Seeing this, they find it strange why he is standing there alone. Then they go to him and ask, "Why are you here? And where is Julian? We had called him so that he could take you away." After this, Henry says that Julian had come to take him, but now he has run away from here because I have learned his truth. He tells Sophie and James that Julian is a big liar and a cruel person. Actually, Julian always wanted to make robots that were better than humans, but after failing repeatedly, he used his devilish mind and started capturing humans and began experiments, brainwashing them, erasing their human emotions, and making them as if they were robots. And Henry is also one of those humans. Then, when Henry came into Sophie's touch, the human feelings inside him started awakening again because he was actually a human. After learning all this, James and Sophie become very angry with Julian, and they go and tell everything to the police, and the police seize Julian's company. Then, to arrest Julian, the police arrive there with Sophie and James. But as soon as they arrive there, Julian attacks the police and kills them, and after that, he is about to kill Sophie and James too, when Henry comes and attacks Julian, and beating him completely finishes him off. After this, Henry also stabs himself with a knife, and before dying, he apologizes to Sophie and James for coming into their lives and causing them trouble, and then he dies. But seeing his death like this, Sophie and James cry a lot, and they feel regret because all of Henry's feelings and human emotions were real, which were taken away from him. Now, at the end of the story, a scene from a few years later is shown, where Sophie and James have a son, and they have named him Henry because they didn't want to forget Henry, how important a part he was of their life. So, friends, this was the story of a human on whom experiments were done, and he was made like a machine. But even after that, the human emotions inside him couldn't be erased. This story teaches us that emotions are not just limited to the bodies, they can be born in any form. And perhaps being human is not just about heartbeats, but about love and maintaining our relationships. I hope you like the story.